but Kevin Fishbain is here. So let's get into it here.
Kevin was in Evanston this morning. It was Northwestern's Pro Day. Did anything happen?
I got something for you, Hogue.
Ooh.
Here we go. Jalen Pate.
Okay.
Jalen Pate, defensive end. Let me just get my numbers here for you guys. Jalen Pate. Yeah. He put up a 10-foot 3-inch broad jump, which would have been 7th among defensive ends at the combine. His vertical 36, that would have been top 10.
Jalen Pate, grad kid at Northwestern, played at Wyoming, dealt with a couple of injuries, but I talked to Pate late in the season. I like Pate. I'm a Pate fan. That is a good undrafted free agent drop right there by Fishbain. Watch out for Pate.
Guys, there you go. Jalen Pate had a day.
So, look, we've all been to pro days, Northwestern pro days, where, the Bears are heavily represented. I remember a couple years ago when you had Peter Skoronsky and our guy Adibare
Adetomowa?
Adibare Adetomowa.
No.
I forget his name.
No, 2 years ago. Went to the Colts.
I know.
Tommy Adibare.
Adetomowa Adibare.
Okay.
Yeah.
Northwestern D lineman.
And Evan Hull.
We're struggling right now.
The point is, there are years where
Adetomowa Adibare. Yes, my guy.
There are years where the GM and the head coach and everything shows up. I'm assuming the representation today was not the same.
Yeah, I don't think anybody is considered "quote unquote" draftable of the group that was there. So there were probably 3 or 4 Bears scouts helping run the show. But yeah, you didn't have anybody up at the director level, if you will. But I know Carm's a big Xander Mueller guy. Northwestern linebacker, phenomenal college player. Would love to see him get on a team. I could see him like leading a team in preseason tackles.
He's a Sanborn type. He could be a mini Sanborn.
Who's going to replace Sanborn, by the way? Who are the Bears going to sign to replace Sanborn?
Literally no one. We all know that was the worst decision of the offseason, and we're all going to be scratching our heads as he goes down to Dallas and dominates. What's your read, if I may, Kevin? What's your read on what Poles had to say the other day about the draft is wide open at 10?
I can't talk to you about my Bears thoughts, Carm. You guys are a competitor.
I appreciate that. We'll get something out of him, though.
Well, what was your question again? I was forming that bit to try.
He's got to save all his thoughts for the midday show on the Score.
I was asking your read on Ryan Poles saying that it's a good show. That your read on your read
the fishing report.
Your read.
Starting to see why he just hasn't been on in a while.
Too. Your read on Poles saying that the board is open at 10.
Board's open at 10. That was a great. First of all, it was a great question, I thought, by the media member who threw it out there. Let me bring this to you guys. So I think we all think like, okay, they got their 5 starting linemen. That's pretty impressive haul. So you could argue that they don't need to spend the 10th pick on an offensive lineman. You could argue they don't need to spend a defensive lineman, and you could argue both ways on that too. So the immediate thought is you start talking Ashton Genty, you start talking Tyler Warren. You want to talk a trade back from Malachi Starks, things like that. Let me throw this at you in terms of Carm. To your point, what about trade up? Does this open the door for them to trade up because that having those 2 second rounders is not as important when you already got 5 starters in free agency? And I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not suggesting this. I don't know if I'm Mason Graham or if Abdul Carter starts to slide. But just, I think I'm bringing it up just to paint this picture that they have a lot of different avenues they could go. And you could even talk yourself into trade up. We all saw the video last year. Ryan Poles wanted to do it for Roma Dunze. So you can't put anything past him.
If they end up trading up to get Ashton Genty, I'm not going to love it. I can tell you that.
I did not say – nobody said they were trading up for Ashton Genty, Carm.
I heard the names you threw out there, but
for Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah,
that would be.
I trading up for anybody, I think I would not approve of that.
But you feel better about it. You feel better about it like now. Like again, I'm not suggesting they should do it, but I think that they've given themselves that option just in case, that you would feel a little bit better if they did it now than if they only signed 3 starting linemen last week.
Sure, I agree. It opens the door.
I think it could happen. I wouldn't rule it out at all. To your point, I think it's absolutely on the table if they fall in love with someone.
Would you say, Kevin? If you had to rank most likely to happen, like the odds, they pick at 10, they trade back, or they trade up?
I'd say pick at 10. I think is a heavy favorite. Trade up would probably be a heavy underdog. Here's my thing with trading back. It's funny. My colleague at The Athletic covers the Patriots. We were talking about trade because the Patriots are looking to trade. So we've got a beat writer mock. I think it's going on right now. It'll be up at The Athletic tomorrow or Thursday. And when this thing starts, like everybody jumps in and says, hey, I want to trade back. And nobody wants to trade up. Now, again, it's just beat writers doing this, but I just think as much as a trade back would be nice, my question is who's trading up and for whom? I just don't know. Do the Cowboys get jittery for Genty? You guys can use that one. Does Shedeur drop all the way to 10? And then I don't know, the Seattle, like, does somebody move up for Shedeur? There's no wide receiver you trade up for. I just don't know who that player is and who that team is that gives you that option. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I just think it's tough to, like, I'm looking through our mock draft right now, and just like everybody who's up says, I want to trade back, and nobody wants to trade up.
Well, I mean, didn't I see the stat that this is the longest or the closest we've ever been to the draft where everybody has their first round pick? Wasn't that what I saw?
Yeah, the NFL put that out yesterday. It's the latest in the modern draft era that all 32 teams currently hold their own first round pick.
And to your point, Kevin, I just think that speaks to the league going this way, where they've learned their lessons and they're done, risking and pushing their chips in, giving up future draft equity, and then putting themselves behind the 8 ball and placing all their chips in one basket. I just don't think teams want to do that anymore.
Yeah, and I think you're seeing, Braggs, how often these GMs and coaches are getting fired. And you when you make that kind of play, when you make that kind of mortgage of the future, you better be right. And some guys have a little bit more cachet that they can get away with it. Even if it doesn't work out, they got guys that can come through. I mean, shoot, like, it's amazing that the Trey Lance trade up is not talked about more as like this just total catastrophe of a move for someone that just didn't work out. Now, because they have Brock Purdy. So, again, like, teams that are able to kind of move on from that. But you're right. I could see teams being, especially in this draft, we keep hearing this draft just doesn't have enough of those clear-cut, no doubt blue chip guys. It's going to be hard to find those trading partners.
Well, let me ask you this. You mentioned earlier saying, well, it seems like the Bears have their starting 5 on the offensive line. So you feel confident do you feel confident going forward with Braxton Jones and not bringing in someone at 10 to be competition for him going forward?
Braggs, you can read more about that at The Athletic.
Yeah, I know it. It. You do such a great job too.
I go both ways on that. I really do. I would love to know what their evaluation is of Will Campbell, and like, do they think he could be a left tackle? I mean, if you look at what the 2 left tackles Ryan Poles has drafted, Will Campbell does not fit that size profile. Certainly, the athleticism's there, but are the Bears like a rigid, you have to be this size to play left tackle for us? If Mbao drops, as he's there at 10, do they see him as left tackle? I'm not ruling it out. I think that you could, because even if you feel good about Braxton Jones being your starter, he's in the last year of his rookie deal. So, you gotta think about that position. I'll go back to I brought this up over the weekend. 2014, the Bears picked 14 and took Kyle Fuller. And that was not a position of need necessarily. it turned out to be the perfect pick because Charles Tillman got hurt in week 2, and that ended up being the end of his career as a Bear. But Fuller, Hogue, correct me if I'm wrong, did Jennings move inside at the beginning? And Kyle, I feel like Fuller didn't play very much as among the starters because you had Jennings and Peanut. 2014, Kyle Fuller, cornerback, number 23, Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Was that the year that Martellus Bennett slammed him down, or was that the next year?
That was no. Yeah, Marty did body slam him that year. Same day Marquise Wilson broke his clavicle. But that's neither here nor there. I bring that up because I don't know if the Bears are in that position, but I just remember that draft, they'd signed their 2 edge rushers in Lamar Houston, Willie Young. That solved the need. And they went and drafted a corner who in the moment we were like, where's he going to play? And then he ended up starting for a while and being a good player. But I just think that the Bears could be in that position at offensive line, at defensive line, if they take a defensive end. He's not going to be your starter, but you still need him for this year and the future.
The great Kevin Fishbain from The Athletic with us here on the CHGO Bears podcast. That was like a radio reset. I didn't need to do that. But regardless, it was fun. I liked it. Memories. Hey, you said cachet a second ago. How much cachet does Ryan Poles have in your mind right now? Let's just say, for argument's sake, things go sideways this year. Is there any scenario in your mind that cachet is that thin, or do you think he's, could survive another down year?
I think if things go sideways, you got to look at why, and if you can point to the GM. Look, the head coach is making a lot of money, and while the head coach still reports to the GM, it's I think those guys are in different standings right now. If you just look at contract length and contract value and just what Ben Johnson represents. So, yeah, if things go sideways, anything's in play. But yeah, you'd have to ask a lot of questions. If because if things go sideways, it means your quarterback wasn't good.
Correct.
So you've got a lot of questions you'd have to answer. So I feel like this team should have a decently high floor. I don't know how high their ceiling is for this upcoming year, but I feel like they should be a pretty competitive team that's not going to suffer something like that.
Well, with your fantastic coverage at the Athletic, Kevin, I'm curious between you, Johns, and Hogue, who's going to be the first to break the story that shovels are going to be in the ground at Arlington Heights.
Wow.
With the owners meeting coming up here in a couple weeks. I'm feeling like we got a little bit of a derby here starting up for who's going to win this.
Why
Get
can't
this
I be
story
in
out there.
Why can't
Carm's in this. Carm's got his guys.
I broke this 3 years ago. They're going to Arlington Heights.
Yeah, I was going to say the Athletic broke the news of when the land was purchased. Right. I believe that was my colleague Scott Powers. So
yeah,
that's true.
That's true. It's already been done, I guess.
We do need Scott Powers to get his ass off that Blackhawks beat and break the damn story on what's going on with Arlington Heights.
And that is, before we go here, just nobody break Chris Collins is going anywhere, Kevin. You just make sure that happens, that there's no breaking stories about anything with Villanova. Evanston's the greatest place you can be in life. He wants to wear purple until he doesn't want to wear anything. That's what's going on with Chris Collins, correct?
Listen, as much as I enjoyed watching Jalen Pate at the broad jump and vertical jump, my main reason to go was I needed to just ask around. And essentially I was just asking, what can I do? What can I do to keep Chris Collins here? And I think what I might have to do is I might have to use social media and just, put out a lot of tweets that he's not good and hope that enough Villanova people are watching. Yeah. And just say you really want someone who's been to 3 postseason appearances in 12 years? Is that really what Villanova stands for?
Exactly right.
What was your 49ers alter ego?
Brad from San Fran.
Brad from San
Fran. Yeah, get a fake mustache.
We got Kent from Evanston here.
Yeah.
Did you
just call into radio station and be like, that Chris Collins guy, garbage.
Or we'll go the Mark Trestman called him Ken, so we'll just do Ken.
Did you see Mark Jackson, Northwestern AD, and say something to him? Now you've piqued my interest if he was there and whether you were able to weasel your way in there.
I did not see Mark Jackson, unfortunately. If he was there, he was not in my purview. Probably, but I would have I would have said something.
Don't Don't worry, Porter Moser's going to keep everything on the tracks.
That's not a bad name.
All right. I do have one last important question for you. In the Athletic Beat Writer mock draft, are you making the pick or Adam Johns? Because I feel like there's two drastically different. I mean, one's going to pick somebody that went to some high school in Illinois, and you will not.
I am looking. I did 1.0. Johns has 2.0, which is going on right now. I'm looking at it as we speak, and Johns has made his pick. It is in. And this player did not play high school football in the state of Illinois.
Oh, little teaser.
Just a tease for Hogan Johnson.
Do you guys want the first 9?
Yep. Yeah. Because I think I can make his pick then.
You know what? No, actually, I'm not allowed to do
don't
this.
spoil
What are you talking
it.
about?
No, we read it at The Athletic.
Read it at The Athletic. It'll be up later this week. Hey, you guys know that you are one of my favorite Bears podcasts.
Thank you, man. That means a lot.
The follow-up to that is I don't actually listen to any Bears podcasts.
Not even the ones you're on. I know.
Well, you're always in our chat, and we appreciate that.
Always is an overstatement.
And our friendship has just grown exponentially throughout the years, and I'm very proud of that. And I look forward to seeing you at training camp and embracing you and yelling your name. And this time you may wave back.
Maybe.
We're trying to get him banned from even being a fan of training camp, Kev. But I don't think that's going to go well for us.
Kevin, thank you, man.
Thanks, guys. Go Cats.
We all silly like the mayor.